On our last session, we were talking about how faith versus love, and how our authority is over the spiritual realm and not over people, and how when somebody has a lack of faith and it affects our own goals, then we can be struck with fear and anger, and how we deal with that. We need to watch vigilantly for fear, because fear hijacks our faith. Fear changes everything. We need to be continually in peace, trusting in Him. That's why we certainly do need a balance when it comes to knowing our righteousness in Christ. I did have a situation fairly recently where somebody was trying to undermine my own faith. And this caused an awful lot of guilt and fear and doubt in me over my faith. These kinds of things can tell us where we are. They can tell us where we are in terms of love for other people. But they can also tell us where we are in terms of our own real faith and conviction over an issue. If we get into fear and guilt and doubt over an issue because of somebody else who's trying to undermine us because of their faith, then we need to ask ourselves the question, are we really founded over that issue in faith? Are we really fully persuaded? Do we really have faith over that issue? Or is it just an attempt to have faith because it's something we think we should have faith over? These are all opportunities to review our own place where we are, and that's exactly what I did. It's not all about how spiritual we are, about how much authority we have. It's all to do with humility and considering others. And it's certainly all about walking with and trusting God in every issue that we face, whether it's to do with conflict or controversy with other people, or whether it's to do with problems and situations that don't involve other people. It's our walk with God that we need to make sure that we are developing, so that when we do come up against all these situations, then we have Him by our sides and we can hear His voice and get His advice and opinion on all things. It seems to be that the more spiritual we are, the more mature we get, the more wisdom we need. Remember, knowledge puffs up, but love edifies. But the more knowledge that we get of the Word and of spiritual things, the more potential we have of getting puffed up. That's why it's also so important, the more spiritual we get, to stay attached to the head, as in continue with our fellowship very closely to Jesus, and also to stay in a body somewhere, rooted and grounded in a body, rooted and grounded in love with other believers. These are all safeguards that even though we know we're the righteousness of God in Christ, that we still have the potential of losing it somehow, losing it in pride, or losing it in a lack of faith, or losing it in going a bit weird spiritually. So it's very, very important that we understand that. Our faith is not out the window just because somebody else doubts it, and just because somebody else challenges it, and just because somebody else is not in faith over the same thing and yet has a lot of scriptures and a lot of arguments against the faith that we have. If we're not founded in that faith, if that faith is not really true and deep and dwelling in our hearts in the way it should be, then we will have fear, and we will have doubt and guilt, and we will have contention. So we need to be sure that that particular issue of faith is definitely dwelling in our hearts richly, and that it is a substance. And it's not all about words, it's about power. And if we have the faith, then we will have the power, and words will not matter. It's not about words and showing off our spirituality. It's about power. What good are the words without the power? Paul himself says in 1 Corinthians 2:4, "My speech and my preaching were not with persuasive words of human wisdom, but in demonstration of the Spirit and of power. Is there enough of the power of God operating in the Christian world lately, in lives of believers? Is there enough power? If not, why not? Is it because we're more concerned with our spirituality and not concerned with love? We need more power. Faith and spirituality can be competitive. We talked in one session about not letting anybody cheat you of your reward. But true righteousness is founded in faith in Him. No one can cheat you of your reward if your faith is totally founded in Him. The more spiritual we are, the more wisdom we need. What are the symptoms of our righteousness in Christ? What are we parading or displaying to show that we are the righteousness of God in Christ? Are we showing wisdom? Are we behaving in wisdom? Are we getting the wisdom from God? Are we showing love and humility through wisdom? There is a passage in James chapter 3 verses 13 to 18. It says, "Who is wise and understanding among you? Let him show by good conduct that his works are done in the meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter envy and self-seeking in your hearts, do not boast and lie against the truth. This wisdom does not descend from above, but is earthly, sensual, demonic. For where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing are there. But the wisdom that is from above is first peaceable, then gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. And the fruit of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace." Are we showing the fruits of our righteousness in Christ? Are we showing peace? But more importantly, are we sowing peace because of our righteousness in Christ as a symptom of that righteousness? It is so very easy to get into fear for 1,001 reasons, but fear changes everything. When we're in fear, we're not in the Spirit, we're not in love, and we're certainly not operating in the righteousness in Christ. We need to learn to recognise fear quickly and step back into love.